good morning, and good afternoon, and good evening to In-House Counsel and in-house legal professionals from all across North America and the world. Welcome to In-House Connect. My name is Shai Mahani. I'm the CEO and co-founder of In-House Connect, and I'm thrilled to have you here with us today. Thank you for spending your breakfast time or your lunch time with us or your dinner time with us. And special thanks to our sponsor, which is In-House Connect. In-House Connect is a sponsor of today's program. You can support In-House Connect by subscribing to In-House Connect on demand, which is our CLE library. It's $275 a year for, frankly, the best CLE content for in-house lawyers on the planet, right? That's just my opinion, of course.
That's true. You're dead on.
All right, thank you.
Fantastic stuff.
Thank you, Sterling. And you can also support us by telling your in-house counsel colleagues and friends about us and supporting us on LinkedIn. And of course, special thanks to our amazing presenter today, somebody I really admire and respect and look up to. And I bought several books of his. Sorry that I can't show it, but our presenter today is the one, the only Sterling Miller, who is going to teach us productivity hacks for in-house lawyers. If you're not familiar with Sterling, I'll get to that in a bit, but he's one of the foremost thought leaders on in-house counsel out there, period. He's probably number one. I'll just say he's number one.
Top 10.
Top 10.
Top 10. Top 10. That's pretty good.
Top 10, right? All right, this is our 36th event of the year, and I'm wondering, are you here for the first time, or have you tuned into an IHC webinar before? And shout out to Berlin and South Africa. Welcome to the program.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a really wonderful audience at In-House Connect. Let's get to today's event. Productivity hacks for in-house lawyers, the art of getting things done. Our presenter today is Sterling Miller. Sterling is the CEO and senior counsel at Hilgers Graben, a nationwide litigation boutique law firm. He has enjoyed a wide and varied 30-year plus career. He is a three-time general counsel, having served in that role at Sabra and Travelocity, where he managed international teams handling a myriad of complex legal issues, including bet the company litigation, M&A, IPO, corporate secretarial, data privacy, government affairs, and commercial agreements. He began his in-house career in 1994 at American Airlines, where he led the legal team for Sabre Holdings' successful IPO. In January 2019, he led the legal team that worked on the successful sale of Marketo to Adobe. And after that, he returned to the Dallas office for Hilgers Graben for a second stint. Of course, in his free time, he is a prolific author. He has published 5 books with a 6th on the way. I have 3 of them right here, and I hope to get the other 3 very shortly. You should Google 10 things legal department needs to know. I'm sorry, what's the name of the blog? I don't want to mix it up.
10 things you need to know is In-House Counsel.
All right, just Google that, it will come up, but I will share a link to that as well. Follow him on LinkedIn, follow him on Twitter. He's just an awesome speaker on all things in-house counsel. And frankly, it is my humble privilege and an honor to have him here with us today. Sterling, I will turn things over to you.
Wow, Shai, thank you. Wow, that was great. I may just stop. I don't think I could top that introduction at all. So thank you for having me back. I'm looking forward to this. I'm also looking forward to one in August where we actually will get CLE credit. So apologize for that, though. I think you will find this useful. There will be a copy of the PowerPoint either on the website or as part of the recording materials. There are a ton of live hyperlinks throughout. So there's a lot of information that's going to be available to you as we go along. But this is one of my favorite topics, productivity for in-house lawyers. I have spent a lot of time thinking about this and writing about this, as we're going to see in just a few slides here. So this is me in black and white, just in case you wondered what I looked like. Shai went through most of this. If you need a link to the blog, there it is. And book number 6 will be out shortly. These are the 5 that I have published. I have written a cookbook and a book on football besides lawyer stuff. You can probably tell from the helmets behind me that I am a big National Football League fan. But also, I'm really excited. I was telling Shai this right before we joined, is that you are going to see for the first time the cover of the new book, which will be out in June or July, The Productive In-House Lawyer, Tips and Hacks, and the Art of Getting Things Done. So just a couple months, this will be out. And I think on the August CLE, we're probably going to give a copy or 2 away. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited about the book. not only because it's a new book, but also because it is the subject of today's topic. So everything that we're going to talk about today is in the book and then some. So I hope you like the cover. I think it's really cool. I think the ABA did a really great job there. But let's get started and we'll start talking productivity. So what's the problem, right? And the good news is I have failed in many ways to find ways to be more productive. If there was a system or a tool or some, I don't know, snake oil salesman saying, here's how you could be more productive, I probably tried it and I probably did not succeed. But over that long period of time, I found a lot of things that did work and I kept those. And that's what we're going to talk about today to some extent. All of those are also in the book. But the one thing I want to emphasize is, I'm going to share the things that worked for me and worked for the teams that I managed when I was general counsel. But everything is relative. So you may look at something and go, that's not going to work for me. That's fine. Or that could work if I do it this way. Again, everything is relative. It depends on your situation. But the main thing to know is that if you want to become more productive, that's a goal and it's a pretty worthy one. There are three things you need to know. One, doing nothing's not an option, because if you don't try to do something to become more productive, you're just going to stay on the same path and trajectory that you're on. If you start something and you backslide, that's okay. That happens to everyone. Just start over again the next day. So it's a little bit like a diet, right? When you go to Dairy Queen, like, damn it, but the next day, yep, go ahead and get back on. Just because you slip doesn't mean you have to stop. And really importantly, this last point is you don't have to do everything in one day. Little successes built up over time is one of the key components to real productivity. And one of the secrets, I think, that a lot of in-house lawyers don't necessarily grasp right away is just making little bits of progress, letting those add up. And next thing you know, you've accomplished a lot, even by doing just little steps. So that's what we're going to talk about today, a little later in the slide. So what's the core problem we're trying to solve? That's pretty easy, right? There's too much to do and there's not enough time to do it. And what that means is we all end up falling down that black hole, just like the rabbit, trying to figure out, how am I going to solve this? How am I going to fix this? How do I become more productive? So we're going to step through several different things here over the next hour, but I want to start with what I think is the most important. I call it the monster in the room, and that is email. Email is probably one of the tools that allows you to be very productive, but paradoxically keeps you from being productive. So how do you figure out to use it in the right way and prevent it from becoming a productivity problem? Now, I am old enough to remember what life was like before email, and it was awesome. Everything was paper. You might send something off, it would take several days to come back. People wanted you, they called you on the phone. If you traveled for business, no one bothered you until you got back. That obviously is not the way it is today, because this is what life is like today, right? We're bombarded with requests, with information, with distractions constantly. And we're also tethered because we have the phone, and the phone has email. So if we're not at our desk, no matter where you are in the world, people can get a hold of you. And the first thing you have to do is kind of step back and go, all right, I want to make a change. I need to decide that this is what I want to do. And then I have to stick with it, right? So I want to do something different. I want to get better. And I'm going to find some things that work. And then I'm going to stick with those for the long term and not just move on to the next shiny bauble that comes along. So here are some pretty basic tips. There's nothing here that's rocket science, right? This is just me figuring things out over time. Number one, if you send less emails, you will get less emails. It's simple math. I call it stop playing email tennis. And by email tennis, what I have found is that a lot of times people pretend they are productive because they have responded to an email. So you have hit it off to the next person, and then they're going to hit it back to you, and then you're going to hit it back. And next thing you know, you've got this long, long email trail where nothing is getting accomplished because you're just keep sending basically the same email back and forth. You have to break that cycle. So first, do I really need to send an email? Is this something that is meant for what email is supposed to do, which is short messages? You should not be dealing with complex legal issues. If you have 3 or 4 emails going back and forth, you probably need a meeting. As much as I hate meetings, we'll talk about that. You cannot get really complex work accomplished. And what you end up doing is creating a transcript of your day, because you're just writing down your thoughts, they're writing down their thoughts, and getting away from that and breaking away from that is really critical. So can I use Teams or Slack? Can I pick up the phone? Something we used to do all the time, now pretty rarely, but can you just have a conversation with someone? And if you're in the office together, which I know is hard over the last few years, but I think that pendulum starting to swing back, can I just go and sit down and talk to someone? Just walk down the hall and go, hey, let's talk about this, versus sending an email, getting an email back, sending an email. And then the last thing I'll mention on this slide is be kind with the reply all. We've all been in those endless email loops of doom where, because you're one of 20 people on it, if someone responds and goes, hey, thanks, nice job, that's great, got it, all of a sudden you have 20 emails which are total garbage, right? So when you're replying, think about, do I really need to reply to everyone on this email, or do I really only need to reply to maybe one person or 2 people? So think about that as you go along. Unsubscribe. I am an email hoarder. If it's sports news or electronics or gadgets or whatever, I probably have signed up for it, which means that my email inbox gets fuller and fuller with stuff that really doesn't matter. And one of the things that I do very frequently actually, is I realize most of the stuff I don't need, most of the stuff I don't read, I just unsubscribe, and it doesn't come back in my email box. If I think they're a little sketchy, I'll just put them into junk. Just right click and put junk, and then I never see it unless I go into my junk mail. But it feels really good. And even if you think about it, you can just cut 10 minutes out of your day from reading useless emails. That's almost an hour a week. That's 52 hours over the course of a year. So that's almost 2 full days you can get back to do other things just by saving 10 minutes a day of not reading useless emails. So use that power to unsubscribe. Another thing you can do is use temporary emails. These are emails that are only good for 10 minutes. And here's a service, 10-minute email, very descriptive, right? You can use this to sign up for something, because when you sign up, right, the very next thing you're going to get is on their mailing list. If you use these temporary services, and there's a link here, the best temporary email services, you can get out of that loop. You can get whatever it is you need, download the PDF, etc., but not get all the follow-up marketing. So that's another way that you can save time and tame the email monster. Let people know what you need from them in the email. And one of the lessons that I learned very, very early when I was first general counsel, and I didn't dawn on me until a few months in, is that if I sent someone an email, and if I didn't tell them what I wanted, if I needed anything, when I wanted it by, they assumed, because I was the boss, that I needed it right away. And they would stop doing whatever it is they were working on and go figure out, how am I going to respond to Sterling's email? And when I realized what people were doing, like, no, don't do that. If you're working on something important, my email may not be as important as what you're working on. And so what I just started doing is just telling people, FYI only means no response. Or if I put NRN in the subject line or at the very beginning, no response needed. If I did need something, I will tell you my ideal time to get it back, and you're going to have to tell me if you can meet that deadline. So this is not urgent. If you can get it to me by next Monday, that's great. But telling people when you need something, what you need, if you need anything, is another way that you can stop emails from coming back into your inbox, and also allow people, including yourself, to be more productive, because you're not stopping what you're doing and all of a sudden changing directions. And we're going to talk about that multitasking problem here in just a few slides. This is really hard, this next slide here, but it works. If you can figure out, can I just review emails at set times throughout the day and not have my email open in front of me all day long, so that next thing that comes in, now that becomes, oh, I'm reading it. Do I need to do this? Should I do this? What should I do with this? If you can make those decisions in 5 or 6 times a day versus constantly, you'll find your ability to concentrate and to focus on something that's really important is going to go up dramatically. Because otherwise, if you think about it, if you're just working from your email, you are allowing everybody in the company or even outside the company to create a to-do list for you where they can add things whenever they want, and you're just working what's ever at the top of the email list. So don't let email become the master. Set aside some times that you're going to respond. If you think you're going to miss something from someone who's important, like the CEO or whoever, you can set alerts. You can set, there are tools in your email system that will allow those emails to come through. But otherwise, figure out, I'm going to look at emails from 8 to 8:30, then from 11, or whatever your case is. If you can find a cadence that works for you, this will allow you to do the one thing that's so hard, and that's find time to concentrate. And that's find time to focus on things that really, really matter. And that's when you get your best work done. When you are checking your email, now you have to decide, what do I want to do with this? And you should do that immediately. And I call this the 4Ds, right? I'm either going to do it. So there's something here that's so important or so simple that I'm just going to go ahead and say, yep, done. I'm going to defer it, right? Like, yeah, I can get to that. I need to do that. Delete it, my favorite, or unsubscribe. Like, I never want to hear from this again. So that's another thing you can do. Or you can delegate it, which is something we'll talk about a little bit later. But as you move up the chain, and even if you're not at the top of the chain, there are ways that you can delegate tasks to certain people and get it out of your plate. There are some neat tools available. iMail and Follow Up Then, what these do is they allow you to basically pick a day and a time you want that email to come back to you. So you can say, you know what, this is interesting, but I think I'm going to work on it next Tuesday. And you can put that information in, click, email goes out of your inbox, and then next Tuesday it pops in at the time that you put, and now you can work on it, or you can defer it again, or do whatever you want with it. Also, a lot of people know this with Outlook, and I'm pretty sure you can do this with Gmail. You can just, if you have an email you want to turn into a calendar event or a task, you can just drag it and drop it into one of those icons, and that opens up the calendar, opens up a to-do list for you, and you can use that as well. It can save a lot of time. And again, it's all about deciding, what do you want to do and when do you want to do it. And if you're fortunate enough to be part of a team, right, there's more than just you in the legal department, anything that you can do together. If you decide, when it comes to email, here's our new rule, here's our new processes. If you do these things together, it makes a huge difference. At my firm, a few months ago, we started basically no non-essential emails over the weekend. If you have an email that you want to write over the weekend, but it's not urgent, meaning someone really needs to deal with it, you need to either save it and send it out on Monday, or use that feature where you can, click on when you want it to go out, delay feature in Outlook, go out on Monday morning or Monday afternoon, whenever you want it to go out. We did that as a team, and it was amazing to see how much less the email traffic was over the weekend. Because when people were just, oh, I want to send this out, I have it in my head, I just want to get it and get it out. And what that does is it causes everybody else to go, oh, do I need to respond to this? It's a Saturday, it's a Sunday. If you take that out of the equation and you go with non-essential, it makes a big difference. Again, that's part of doing it as a team. And if you need to send something, you send it, right? That's essential. But doing it together can make a real difference and makes the impact of anything that you're doing when it comes to productivity, savings, it just increases the value and the power exponentially. And whatever you do when it comes to email, keep trying, right? It takes a little mental elbow grease. If you one day go back to all your bad habits and you're just working on the top email, okay, fine. Again, like we said at the very beginning, just step back, get back on the horse tomorrow, and all will be well. So I think a lot of the most immediate productivity gains that you can find is how do I tame email? And when you figure out what works for you and things that work best, you're going to see some real productivity gains, even if it's just 10 minutes a day. The to-do list. If you know me, you know I am not a big fan of to-do lists. Why? Well, there's some interesting stats when it comes to to-do list. 41% of the things that we write down on to-do lists never get completed. So almost half of what you are writing down never gets done. 50% are done in a day. 10% are done in a minute. 15% of your completed tasks are things that were never on your list in the first place. So what this tells us, and what it told me, because I used to have incredibly elaborate to-do lists. I used the task feature to do in Outlook and color coded percentages of where I was, and I realized I was spending hour or more a day just working on my to-do list. And yeah, it felt good, but it was really false productivity. I wasn't getting anything done. I was just making all the things I wasn't doing look really pretty. So I'm asking you to reconsider, how do you think about your day when it comes to the things that you want to actually accomplish? Because there's always going to be unfinished tasks. There's always going to be things that don't correlate to how your day explodes, right? You may have all the best intentions at 8:30, and then by 10, everything gets blown to hell because of an emergency or the CEO is calling you. We all deal with that, and we all understand what that means. So my advice, take it or leave it, is flush the to-do list. And what I mean by this, I don't mean don't have a list of things that need to be done. That is something you have to do, right? You need to know somewhere the things that are building up. But when it comes to what you're going to focus on during the day, don't have this giant list in front of you and you're just trying to tick things off. Have something that you put some thought into. And what I call that is doing something different. And that is a top 3 list. Start with a list of 3 things. Focus on what you need to do versus the things that you can do. And what this means is think about all the things on your list, look through your emails. When I start my day, I go into my emails, I sort them by subject, I sort them by sender, and sometimes I have we will click the little flag every once in a while. And I get a really good sense in just a few minutes, like what's important today. I look at my list of things, right? Okay. And then I figure out the 3 most important things that I want to try to accomplish today, and I put those down. It doesn't mean that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to try to spend about 75 to 80% of my day on those 3 things because those are the most important. And you have to be kind of ruthless when you're picking your 3 things. You can't have 4, 5, or 10 because you're never going to get to those. 3 is a pretty reasonable number. You may only have 1, just given whatever is coming across your desk that day. But pick something that's manageable. Pick something that allows you to really focus on the things that are going to drive the most value for the company, for the legal department, are going to either create value or prevent value destruction and maximize. You've heard this before, the 80-20 rule, which is 80% of our accomplishments are usually due to 20% of our effort. If you can maximize that 20%, right, your effort is going into things that really matter, that 80% of the value is going to go up. So it's really trying to find a way of doing the handful of tasks that you've identified and using those to really get things that matter done. It also helps you stop saying yes, because that's a problem with in-house lawyers, is we like to say yes to everything. And I understand that. That's part of our nature. I tend to be the same way. But if you have a list of 3 things that you're going to focus on, Now you're going, well, this is most important. Do I really have time? Do I have the ability? Do I need to say yes? And again, all with the caveats that something can come in and blow up your day, and your top 3 list goes in the trash, and you're going to focus on whatever the emergency is. But it allows you to plan, and it requires you each day to think about the most important things on your plate, because there's so much and you can't do everything. Your time is limited. The number of people are limited. You really have to make some decisions on what are the most important, what are the most valuable things that you can do. One of the things that I did, if you follow my blog, you saw this a month or so ago. This was my not to do list. I actually created a list of things I wasn't going to do. It's kind of the opposite of a to-do list in a way, but what it allows me to do is at least have a principled lens that I am looking at the things that are coming across my desk and going, is this something I need to spend time on, or is this something I'm just not going to do? And it allowed me, and I still use it today, it allows me to boost my productivity again, because I'm able to focus on things that really matter and not spend significant amount of time on things that don't matter. So here's mine. This is actually a copy of my list from 2019 when I was at Marketo. I'm not going to go through all of these. You'll have this when you get a copy of the materials. But I just one day sat down and said, I will not. And this is the list I came up with. And pretty long, because there were lots of things I realized were pulling me away from doing the things that really mattered. And I wanted to try to capture all of it. Again, it depends on the circumstances. It depends on what's going on. But in general, I tried to stay true to this list and things that I was not going to spend my time on, especially the last one, because I love to write. So I'm really big into editing other people's stuff, and I realized that's not that valuable. If the wording's good enough, just let it go. Don't redline it, don't change it. And there are a lot of other things on here that we could probably spend a whole hour just talking about. So coming up with the list of 3, but also coming up with things that you're not going to spend your time on. This is a great thing to do as a team, right? What is the legal department going to focus on? And what are the things that we just don't think add value, that we shouldn't be doing, or should we only be doing once in a great while? And the way you do this, the way you do both of those, is you need to figure out, how am I going to prioritize properly? And this is really hard, especially for younger in-house lawyers, because everything seems important. Everything seems like it's something that needs to get done. As you get older, or old like me, you realize that there are ways to distinguish, there are ways to think about what actually needs to be done. And there are a ton of systems out there to help you prioritize. And I've listed those on the left-hand side. These are all links. The one that I like the best and I use constantly is the 2x2 box you're seeing. This is called an Eisenhower matrix, sometimes just a 2x2. And what you're doing with this is you're just plotting, of all the things you have to do, which ones are urgent and important, which ones are not important and not urgent. And wherever they are in the box, that upper right-hand quadrant, urgent and important, those are the ones you're going to focus on, because they meet the most of both criteria, which means they're probably the most valuable if you get them done, or at least if you make progress on them. And the ones in the lower left-hand box, why are you doing them, right? That should be the question. Do I really need to be spending time on this? There are some others. Eat the frog, sounds kind of gross. The Pareto principle, that's the 80-20 rule. Moscow, that's Russian, I'm not sure. The 2-minute rule, if you can do it in 2 minutes, do it. And then one that I think I invented, though probably not, I called it Little Things Day. So all that crap that was in the lower left-hand box that I said don't do, every 10 days or so, I would set aside half a day on my calendar if I could. And I just called it Little Things Day. And I would just try to do all those little things that I had been putting off, right? The small contracts, the little nibs and bits that need to get done, but just weren't a priority. At some point, they have to get done. And that's what I would do. I would just call it Little Things Day. That works pretty well. I still do that. It allows me to focus on big things, and then at a regular interval, actually clean out a lot of the stuff on a systematic basis. Justin Meekum is someone you should follow on LinkedIn. He has some great images. This is one of them. These are all the different methods to focus. The Pomodoro technique, the eat the frog, getting things done. I'm not going to go through all these, but it's a cool graphic. And find one of these that works for you and then stick with that one. Or if you try one and it doesn't work, get rid of it fast, move on to something else. But it's finding a system that's going to work for you that really matters. And when you're thinking about priorities, you know, these are some things that should be going through your head. And you can do this just with yourself, or you could do this as part of a legal team, as a department. I'm looking at Project X here. How important is this to the legal department goals, right? Every legal department or every lawyer probably has their own goals. How important is this? How important is this to the business, right? What are the business goals? What's the business strategy? Where does this fit in? Do I have room on the timing? Like, yeah, this looks like it may need some effort. Can this wait till next week, right? Or does it need to be done right away? So how do you figure that out? What's the payoff? Is this going to add a lot of value? Is this going to prevent value from being destroyed? That negative and those positive payoffs you have to think about and consider when you're trying to figure out what is going to go on my top 3 list, what am I going to put in the upper right-hand quadrant, whatever you're doing. You need to think about what the payoff is. And then lastly, can I delegate some of this? Oh, this is really important. Is there someone on my team who can do it? Is there someone else who could take this and do just as good of a job as I can? Those are things that you need to consider when prioritizing. So figuring out how to prioritize your day, what's really important, that's really key to becoming more productive. And if you can do it as a team, that's even better. Hate to break this to you, but you need to stop multitasking. Multitasking, in my opinion, is fake news. The science is there. If you think you can listen to the conference call, work on emails, do a text, you are lying to yourself, and you are actually losing productivity versus gaining productivity. There are billions of working days lost each year just due to people trying to multitask. And when you shift between tasks, it basically makes you 40% less productive. Even if that was half, 20%. Do you really want to go backwards in productivity? Wouldn't you rather go forward with gaining productivity? So, the science is it takes about 25 minutes when you switch back and forth between tasks to regain that focus that is so important to really getting things done. And you know what that is. When you're in a groove, you're working on something, you're writing, you're analyzing it, whatever, and you're really, really cranking, and then something pulls you away, something distracts you. That's going to happen, but doing it to yourself, that's multitasking. You're oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. You're really doing nothing well, and you're really becoming less creative, less productive. You're increasing stress on yourself. No one needs that. And if you don't believe me, if you just go, Sterling, you're full of crap, just Google, why is multitasking bad? And then I think you'll see that you don't want to be in the multitasking window of shame like this guy. Okay, so multitasking out the door, meetings. Let's talk about meetings. I have been in so many meetings in my life that I came up with the term finding ways to escape meeting hell or meeting jail. One thing that I thought about, and we thought about this recently too at the firm, is how much does this meeting cost? If you think about the number of people and you think about either their hourly billable rate, if it's a law firm, or you think about, roughly what salaries are and had divided that out somehow, you will realize pretty quickly that meetings are not free. Takes people away from things that they can work on. These are usually, in most businesses, very high-priced people who can be doing other things. So there are calculators out there like this one that will actually allow you to calculate what this meeting is costing the company. So put that in the back of your head when you are thinking of meetings and when you're calling meetings and when you are attending meetings. First rule, you're not going to be able to get out of meetings completely. I understand that, right? It's just part of being a lawyer, certainly part of being an in-house lawyer. But when I was a young in-house lawyer and I first became general counsel, I thought if someone invited me to a meeting, I had to go. oh, I'm the general counsel, I should go. Obviously, I'm important. They invited me. And then I would go to these meetings and I'd sit there going, why the hell did they invite me? There's nothing legal. I realized that just because I was invited, I needed to be smarter. I needed to be smarter about the meetings that I was accepting. And it's okay to say no. No, I'm not going to attend your meeting. Unless it's someone who can fire me, I'm always going to go to those meetings. But otherwise, I feel unless they can tell me why they need me or they need someone from the legal department, why are we there? Now, most of the time they could, right? There's a legal issue we need to discuss. We need your advice, whatever the case is, that's fine. But sometimes we thought it'd be good to have someone from the legal department attend the meeting. And you have to decide, is that really the best way to spend your time? So what I would do every Friday, pull up my calendar for the next week, and I would start to be really relentless and really ruthless about the meetings that I was going to attend, not only internally, but externally, right? Got invited to lots of lunches, got invited to lots of meetings outside. Do I really want to go to those? Do those really add to my day? Some of them do, right? But a lot of them don't. Or I want to have this meeting. I just don't want to do it then. I don't want to do it at night. I don't want to do it early. Whatever the case is. If you're an in-house lawyer and it's someone from the outside, you're probably the client or someone they want to sell something to. Pick whatever works for you. If you want them to come to the office and meet you there, they're going to have to come to the office and meet you there. You don't have to get in the car and drive in half an hour to have lunch with someone that you really don't care if you had lunch with them or not. One of the other things is an agenda. Any meeting worth its salt should have an agenda. And if you call or reach out to the person who's inviting you to the meeting, what are we talking about? What's the agenda for this meeting? If they don't have an agenda, that should be a red light going off that this may not be the most productive meeting you're going to attend. Some other tips at the end of the meeting. If you're attending a meeting, make sure everyone knows what the next steps are and what the follow-ups are and who they are assigned to. Because in my experience, once you walk out that room, if you do not know that, everyone thinks legal's going to take care of it. So it's like playing poker, who's the sap at the table? If you don't know, it's you. So I would always insist on, hey, before we break, these are the three things we talked about doing. Who's handling these, right? If it's something that I can do, great, but I wasn't going to volunteer. But you want to make sure that those next steps are really clear. The default seems to be meetings for an hour. I don't know why. Think about how much time you really need and then cut 15 minutes off it and have a really tight meeting with an agenda that really gets things done. Either the meetings that you set or the meetings that you're going to attend, make sure that it's not going to be one of those let's just fill the hour kind of meetings because we set an hour. Only invite the people that you need and let them know why. If I would send meeting invites out, I would say, I need you for this. I need you for that. I need the other person for this. So they understood what it is they were coming to the meeting for. Sometimes they knew. A lot of times people don't. They just get invited to a meeting, like some random thing out of the blue. Hey, we want you to come to this meeting. Well, ask. And it's okay to set meetings with yourself. Those are meetings that you should always attend. My calendar is blocked with tons of time, which are just me trying to set time to actually get things done. You can do that. I even set out of the office messages that Sterling is in a meeting, all day meetings today. All those meetings are with myself. I'm trying to get something done. So there are ways that you can use your calendar to block people from taking you away from doing things that are truly productive. So lots of things that you can do when it comes to meetings. Number one, just because you're invited doesn't mean you have to attend. Let's talk about conference calls. This is where work goes to die. This is the ghost of productivity rising from the grave because I hate conference calls. Why? There was a recent poll talking about what people are really doing during a conference call. And here it is. Other work. 65% are doing other work. They're not paying attention to the conference call. Almost half the people are going to the bathroom. I don't know how you do that. Playing video games, texting, shopping online. Exercising, that's a whole new one to me. What that tells me and what I have intuitively understood for a long time is that not all, most conference calls are a waste of time. If there are more than a handful of people at this meeting, you need to really understand why this meeting is being called, why you need to participate, and what are people trying to do. Additionally, in this day and age, if it's a conference call, everyone should be on video. Why? Because if you're not on video, you're going to be doing other work. You're going to be, God, I hope you're not on video, going to the bathroom, checking social media. People on camera will not do these things, and you're going to have a really, really focused meeting. So make sure you do that. Limit the number of people, and for God's sake, rethink your own behavior, right? If I'm on a conference call, the very first thing I do is I turn off my screen, unless they're going to be sharing a document. But in my email, either my screen is dark or I close out my email so I'm not distracted by things popping up. Think about your own behavior and how you are acting during the conference calls that you are attending. The false deadline paradox. Guilty on all counts on this one. Lawyers often offer deadlines without being asked. And then we stress out about trying to meet the deadline that we offered up without being asked. So one of the ways you can be more productive is understanding that whatever deadline you have in your head, you are probably underestimating the amount of time it's going to take. So that date that comes out of your mouth is probably much too soon for what you're actually going to need to get it done. And if you're going to try to get it done within that deadline, it means you're probably going to be working at night or over the weekend or really early in the morning, and no one needs that crap. So do not offer deadlines until asked. Let them tell you when they need it done. When do you need this done by? Can you get it to me by Friday? You may go, that's great. Plenty of time. Or it's Thursday, that's tomorrow. Can we make it Monday? Can we make it Tuesday? Most of the time, the answer will be yes. They'll be flexible, they can adjust. There are very few real emergencies where, oh no, this has to be done today. This has to be done immediately. So again, don't offer, make them tell you, and then negotiate the deadlines that make sense. And then realize that sometimes you can't meet the deadlines, right? And think of all the times that happens when you're working with the business and someone will email you or call you and go, hey, I know I promised to get this to you tomorrow or whatever, Monday. This other thing came up, it's sucking all my time. Can we move that? 95% of the time, yes, sure, of course, not a big deal. Sometimes no. Works the same way for lawyers. If you realize it's just not going to work, don't wait until the last minute, but get on the phone or contact the person and go, look, I'm not going to be able to make that deadline. Can we move it? I bet you most of the time they're going to say, yeah, when do you think you can get it done? Use that, but don't start off by offering up deadlines that are going to make you and your life miserable. The power of little things. This was a blog that I wrote a year or so ago on the value of just making small accomplishments. And there's this great book called The One Thing, and they have this picture, which is from there. And to demonstrate what they consider the power of little things, they're talking about the power of a 2-inch domino that can knock over something 50% bigger than itself. And the geometric progression of that one little tiny step knocking down bigger, 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 and bigger. And by the 57th domino, it's the distance to the moon. So what they're trying to demonstrate is sometimes just those little tiny steps can be the very start of getting something really, really big accomplished. So don't snort at just getting something small done. There's some studies that the psychological advantage of just feeling like you're getting things accomplished. So sometimes just doing that little first step, you feel better, you get a good emotional boost, and you're more energized about trying to figure out how you're going to solve that problem. So again, there's something behind, there's science behind the power of just taking those little steps. So that momentum that you're going to generate, even if small, you're starting to get progress. I used to tell my team, if anyone used to work for me and you're on this call, hey guys, let's make some sliders, right? Little burgers. We don't have to make the world's largest cheeseburger and try to eat it. You don't have to tackle the entire problem on day one. Let's find the little pieces and get started. And then over time, we're going to consume all of this, but we're not going to feel like we're paralyzed because the project is just so big. So what I mean by that is, figure out the small little bites, figure out the minutes that you can use. I'm a big fan of using minutes and not worrying about hours. If I go to a meeting or I'm waiting for a meeting and it's 10 minutes before, I could sit there, I could crush candy on my phone, I could, I don't know, do whatever, or I could find something that I could work on for 10 minutes. I could write a part of a blog, I could work on a book. There's lots of things you can do in those little increments of time if you think about it and if you take advantage of those, because they're strewn throughout your day, right? No one's day perfectly lines up with on the hour or on the half hour. So how can I use those minutes to be more productive? And if I'm writing, do not sit there and try to write the perfect introductory paragraph, the perfect topic sentence. Just barf it up, right? Just get going, start writing. You're going to have to go back and rework it anyway. But once you start to build the momentum of writing, it's going to start to flow. It's going to come more natural. Then you can go back and edit it and clean it up. And if you can do this as a team, if you can figure out little things that make a difference as a team, again, the power is just exponential. Delegation, really important to productivity. Why? Yes, you can do it better yourself. No one's questioning that. But delegation is about the long game. It's about the fact that you already know how to do something, and there are other people in a department on your team who need to learn how to do it, who can do it, they're capable of doing it. You've mastered it. It's time to push that on and for you to focus on bigger, more important projects, which is A, more interesting, and B, more fun. So if you're the only person who knows how to do something, that's not a good place for the legal department to be. There needs to be more than one person who knows how to do things, unless you're a legal department of one. But assuming you're not, how do you delegate? And it takes work on both sides, right? It's not just the person you're delegating to learning how to do it. If you are the person delegating, you need to plan on spending time to teach them, to meet with them, to let them do it in their own way. They may not do it the same way that you do it. It's all about the end result. But delegation is so important because it's going to free you up to do things that are more important, to do things that are more interesting, and to allow others to be able to handle tasks that are new to them, more interesting to them. And if you do it right, lots of work starts to go off your plate, and that allows you to take on new projects. When it comes to productivity, yes, technology is really important and really key. Embrace it. It really is a time saver. Lawyers are resistant to technology for some reason, don't like to change, but it can save you time. It can make you be more productive. And the very first place to start is just with the things you have right now. You don't necessarily have to buy brand new technology. Do you know all the ways that you can use Word or Google Docs to do templates, to create forms? Do you know all the ways that you can use Outlook to automate some of your email work? There are so many things that you can do with the technology you're already using before you even begin to think about moving on. But embrace it, find a handful of things that allow you to be more productive and do those consistently. There are some things now that I think are table stakes: e-billing systems, document management, contract management. Those are things any legal department in 2024 needs to have in order to be even a semblance, or have even a semblance of the productivity that you should have. And Chat GPT is truly a game changer, or generative AI. You can pick whichever tool you want. You need to understand how to use it. You need to start using it in some manner, because it is a game changer when it comes to productivity. And now that the big boys, Lexis, Westlaw, Microsoft, and others are in on it, I think you're going to see more and more Chat GPT or AI tools that actually make a lot of sense for you to use. But even the basic free Chat GPT tool is pretty powerful. I'm a big fan of checklists. Probably know that, probably realize that by now. Why? Because of all the ways that it can help you with your productivity. And they're so simple, right? That doesn't take anything more than writing it out to accomplish a lot with a checklist. Reduces errors, productivity boon, makes things consistent and standardized. Again, productivity boon. All the steps are there. You don't forget things. Productivity allows you to delegate, more productivity, stress reduction. Believe it or not, your health matters when it comes to being productive. If you feel good, if you're healthy, if you're not overly stressed, that allows you to be more productive. So things that you can do to take that stress away all matter. And checklists, I'm a big believer in the power of checklists to help do that. There's so much more we could talk about, but I see we're at the top of the hour, so I want to leave some time for some questions. But these are just a handful of things that you can do every day to try to find more productivity to make your day within the time that you're working. I'm not talking about working longer, talking about accomplishing more in a reasonable workday. Here are some resources. You can go deeper on all these things. These are from the blog. All these links will be live when we get to that. Here's my contact information. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I love to connect on LinkedIn. You can email me anytime you want. If you just say, hey, I was in your productivity CLE, or not CLE, I guess, webinar, and you have a question, I'm more than happy to answer that. And with that, Shai, I'm going to stop and let's see if we have any questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Sterling. Wonderful program, tons of tips. Folks, if you enjoyed the program, let us know in the chat. And there are a number of good questions. First, can you elaborate in what ways ChatGPT can be used to increase productivity?
Yes. Maybe we'll do that someday, Shai, as a CLE. I use it to create checklists. I use it to check my work. I use it to draft emails. I use it to draft presentations. I use it to come up with arguments on contract points, pro and con. I ask it to summarize documents and meetings. I mean, there is an incredible amount of things. I wrote a blog on this. It's in the links of my former blogs there on the last slide. Just incredible, so much. And if you just Google, what can Chat GPT do for lawyers, you'll get I mean, there's so much information and it's changing so constantly. So I use it literally every day and I find it just amazing.
Gotcha. This is maybe somewhat of a productivity question, but it's a common question in-house counsel have to face. How can you train colleagues who expect immediate service to wait? How do you push back on someone who thinks like their contracts are urgent or immediate or, have to be done ASAP?
Yeah, not an unusual issue. So I'm just going to take a slice of that because that could be a very long discussion. The contract team, right? Every deal is important. Every deal needs to be done right now, no matter what the value is, $25,000 deal, $25 million deal. First thing that I would do when I became general counsel, and I stepped into that role several times, is I'd go find the head of sales and I'd want to make that person my friend. And I would say, look, can I attend your staff meetings? Can I attend your funnel meetings, right? Where they're talking about what deals are in the pipeline, which ones are going to come to fruition. And then every week I would connect with that person. And I would say, what are the top contracts that you need the legal department to focus on? Give me 3 or 4. I want to make sure that my team is focused on the right deals. Almost inevitably, we would get those. And then if people came to me and said, hey, this deal has to be done today, I would go, hey, I talked to Joe or Sally, head of sales, and they told me these are the 4 that we need to work on. I will get to yours, but it'll be next week, unless you want to get on the phone and we can talk to Sally. And if your contract's more important than these 4, by all means, we'll put it into the list. No one wanted to talk to Sally, right? Because they knew those 4 were way more important. So it's not saying no, it's just saying not now, but it's also saying it's not now because these are the ones we're focused on. And if you can convince me or your boss that these are more important, yes, we'll do your contract. Otherwise, I'm sorry, limited resources, limited time, these are the ones we have to work on. But if you want to go to the CFO or the CEO and say we need more lawyers because deals aren't getting done, please go with my blessing because we would love to have more help, right? Or more budget or whatever it is. So that's one of the ways that I would try to deal with that.
Great stuff. Do you have any tips for cleaning up an already overwhelming inbox that has been neglected?
Wow. Yeah. So first off, you're probably going to have to do this a week or 2 down the road. but find a time when your calendar isn't full. So maybe that's this week or next week, but usually it's like, yeah, a couple weeks. Block off a couple hours, put an out of the office message up. I'm unavailable from this morning, whatever time period you want, and then use that time to go through your inbox and clean it out. And I would sort it by subject matter. I could sort it by people. I would sort it different ways. And then I would start to, then do the 4Ds, right? Do I do this? Do I delete it? Do I defer this? Or do I unsubscribe? Are there things in here that are just crap? Are there things in here that someone else needs to do? Are there things in here that don't require a law degree? I mean, how many times do you get something from the business and you go, well, what's the legal issue? I mean, you guys can go gather facts. You guys can go talk to the implementation team about this. You don't need the lawyers to figure that out. Tell me what the answer is and I'll put it in the contract. But so I would find some time to block out, and then I would be just ruthless as hell and go through and really, really clean it out. Then maybe even create some rules, automating, these types of emails are going to go into a read later folder. These are going to go into junk. I mean, there are lots of things that you can do to start to reduce your email, but it all starts with blocking out some time and then really going through it, because you're not going to be able to do it. And if it's that neglected, you're not going to be able to do it in 10 or 15 minutes. You can make some nibbles, but you really want to set some time aside.
Do you recommend blocking off time on your calendar with just blocks of time? Or somebody.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do that all the time. It's, write, write blog, write book no one will read, all those things. Though I block time with myself all the time, even if it's just a project. Like, okay, I got to get the Smith contract done. I'm going to block a couple hours. Now, it may not hold, right? Because the boss may call or something may come in, but even if it holds 50% of the time, or 70% of the time, I know I'm going to have a really nice window where I can actually get things done. So yes, big believer in blocking windows.
What about email responses? Do you have what's your thoughts on, you have to respond to an email within 48 hours, 24 hours? How do you handle that?
Yeah. So we had a rule when I was general counsel. You have to respond no later than 24 hours, but you don't have to actually have done the work, right? The most important thing that I have found that clients really care about, they just want you to acknowledge that you got their assignment and it's somewhere in the pile. So even if you go back and say, hey, just want to let you know, got your email, this is on the pile. Here's realistically when I'm going to be able to get to it. As soon as I can, I'll give you an update. By doing something like that, they know you got it, so they're not going to chase you. You've given them a time frame. They may come back and say that doesn't work, but let's assume they go, okay. And again, I know I just violated my rule about giving time frames. So, be vague. Next week, don't say next month. And, another thing that you can do that's related to that is proactively going out to people and giving them updates. So every Friday afternoon, besides looking at my calendar, and I still do this today, I'll look at things that I'm working on and I'll go, who needs an update? Because I haven't talked to them in a while. Even if the update is there's nothing going on, I'll keep you posted if something breaks. But what you're doing is you're keeping that person from getting frustrated or getting mad and going, how come I haven't heard from you? What's going on with my project? And if they're at that level of frustration, they're already mad at you and it's going to take you a while to dig out of that hole. Take 20 seconds, send them an update, even if it's nothing, and move on. But acknowledging those emails really quickly, even if you don't do anything substantively, I think is really important. So that's what I would do. That's what we did.
All right. I think we're one more question. Curious about your thoughts on subdividing folders or sorting emails into folders. Is that something you do? Is that something you recommend? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, my email is my file cabinet. So yes, I have folders both on an administrative side and on a substantive side, and then matters, and then I'll usually just have one folder. I know some people will have, if you're a litigator, they'll have pleadings, correspondence, just like you would in what used to be a folder, a matter file that would be in a file room. That's how old I am. But yeah, I'm a big believer in folders and moving things out of my inbox into folders. And then the other thing I do when things are closed and they're not, create PST files and then I get them out of my email because it slows down my laptop, right? So if I'm doing that, I also make sure that I'm finding time to start to clean that stuff out. You can use the archiving feature too. A lot of people do that, but big believer in organizing things by folders because then I can find them much more easily, which is another trick to productivity. Where's Waldo, right? Where the hell is this? If I know it's this matter in this folder, that's going to save me a lot of time when I need to go find whatever it is, or I could always use the search box too and try to find it. But folders, I think folders are better and easier.
We'll wrap up here. Thank you so much, Sterling, for another great webinar. Catch him on LinkedIn at 10things.blog. Search his name in Amazon and buy some books like I did. And I really did.
I got daughters. Help a guy out.
Yes, go through college. I'm a big fan. I highly recommend them. And look, I really did read, at least one and multiple. So thank you, Sterling. Another great webinar. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.